What's up, guys? D-Rock 1992 here. This is going to be the second part of my Van Halen video because I was trying to find some good lighting for the, I was trying to find good lighting for the computer, so I stopped the video, but this will be part 2. But anyway, I left off at David Lee Roth leaving the band for Van Halen, and Van Halen was in trouble at this point. They had an established lead singer in David Lee Roth. Now he was leaving the band. The year he left was 1985, by the way. And what were they going to do? I mean, what was the future of Van Halen going to be like? I would assume that was the big question among Van Halen fans and the band itself. Then they find Sammy Hagar. Sammy Hagar comes into the fold in 1985. And it's a big success with Sammy Hagar. First off, he releases an album in... the first album with Sammy Hagar was 1986, and the album was 5150. It is the first Van Halen album to reach #1 on the Billboard 200. A big success. 5150 also went 6 times platinum. A big success. And this album proved that Van Halen could continue on without David Lee Roth. That they could still be relevant. But it was a different sound. Van Halen with Sammy Hagar was more of a pop rock type tune. David Lee Roth's was more of a rock and roll. You saw the rock and roll more in the songs. You heard it more with David Lee Roth, whereas Sammy Hagar was more pop rock type music. And his songs are good too, definitely. Some of the songs that were popular off 5150, Why Can't This Be Love, which is very successful. Love Walks In, another successful one. The title track, 5150, Best of Both Worlds, Dreams. It was a successful album, period. Then Sammy Hagar follows up with 1988's OU812. Van Halen's, let me see here, Van Halen's 8th studio album, OU812, and that's another success. It's another success for Van Halen. It hits #1 on the Billboard 200. It goes quadruple platinum, so it sells less than 5150, but it's still a success of an album. OU812, Finish What You Started, probably one of the most popular Van Halen songs in the Sammy Hagar era. When It's Love is a good song. Apolitical Blues is kind of a good blues song, a cover of a song. So, another success with OU812 for Van Halen. 1991, Hagar releases the 3rd studio album with Van Halen, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Again, it hits #1 on the Billboard 200. It goes triple platinum, so it's a step below OU812, but For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge is another good example of Van Halen at its best. In the Sammy Hagar era, Pound Cake, a song that's big. That was big. Man on a Mission, Right Now, probably one of the more popular Sammy Hagar Van Halen hits. If you've seen the music video, you'll know why. Top of the World's another good one. Overall, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge continued the success of Van Halen into the 1990s. In 1995, they come out with Balance, the 4th Sammy Hagar, the 4th and so far final studio album from Sammy Hagar. Also, it hit #1 on the Billboard 200, and it went triple platinum. So another big success for Sammy Hagar and Van Halen. Amsterdam, a big song off it. Can't Stop Loving You, another big song. And it's just definitely, it was definitely another big success for Van Halen. And, I mean, it's obviously very rare that Sammy Hagar, a lead singer, can come in and take his band to #1 4 consecutive times, 4 consecutive albums. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable what Sammy Hagar did, and he deserves a lot of credit for it. But no disrespect to Sammy Hagar, David Lee Roth is the best singer, is the best lead singer for Van Halen ever. Period. I like Sammy Hagar, I like his songs, but David Lee Roth's songs are more identifiable. They are more, they're not as mainstream as Sammy Hagar's music, as Sammy Hagar's Van Halen songs were. But to take 4 albums to #1 with Van Halen, big success. Then Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen started having problems. The band itself started having issues. What most bands go through is, a lot of in-house fighting, a lot of arguments, things like that. So, and I believe Sammy Hagar released, in 1993 actually, there's a live album called Live Right Here, Right Now that was released in 1993. It went double platinum, and there was a cover. Van Halen did a cover of the song Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. Just one I thought I'd mention. The cover itself is good. You should definitely check that out. But yeah, after that, Sammy Hagar left the band. Not long after Balance came out. Get the date here for when he left. 1996, a year after Balance was released. It was released. For a brief time in 1996, David Lee Roth actually reunited with the band, and they recorded some new tracks for their Best of Greatest Hits album. And the songs were Me Wise Magic, Can't Get This Stuff No More, and Humans Being. I think they were the only new songs off this off it. One of them was off the movie Twister, that tornado movie. This one, the Humans Being song, was off that soundtrack, the Twister soundtrack, that movie. The rest of the songs on the Greatest Hits album were greatest hits. Songs that were recorded, popular Van Halen hits. But yeah, so after that, David Lee Roth left the band again, and now you have a new lead singer. From 1996 to 1999, the often forgetful, when you think of Van Halen, you think of Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth, those two. Gary Cherone entered the equation as the lead singer of Van Halen from 96 to 99. And they did one album with Gary Cherone. Gary Cherone was originally a lead singer for the band Extreme. They did an album in 1998 titled Van Halen 3. And let's see here. They did an album, Van Halen 3, and needless to say, Van Halen 3 is their lowest selling album of all time. I believe it still is. Even though it hit #4 on the Billboard 200, it only did go gold. It only was a gold album. It's one of the lowest selling, one of the least popular Van Halen hits of all time, or Van Halen albums of all time. There's some songs. There were 3 singles off the album: Without You, One I Want, and Fire in the Hole. But not memorable Van Halen songs, and it was definitely a failure of an album compared to the other albums. It was a massive failure compared to the other ones. But still hit number 4 and went gold, so it sold about 500,000 copies. But yeah, Van Halen fans don't think of Gary Cherone when they think of Van Halen. So, he just didn't do the job with Van Halen. Of course, he had a lot of expectations to fill. I mean, come on. You're expected to follow up Sammy Hagar and the success of David Lee Roth. Sammy Hagar was able to do that, to follow up that success of David Lee Roth, but Gary Cherone just wasn't able to. And unfortunately, Van Halen went through a little bit of a... after Gary Cherone left the band, Van Halen went through a little bit of a hiatus. I don't think they were active from 1999 to 2003. But in 2003, Sammy Hagar reunites with the band. But it's only for 2 years, from 2003 to 2005. And then Sammy Hagar leaves yet again. And 2007 comes along, and you see 2 changes in the band. You see David Lee Roth come back as the lead singer. He currently is the lead singer now. But then you actually see Michael Anthony leave the band. And the reason Michael Anthony left the band, disagreement definitely among the bandmates. Van Halen was so cruel in removing Michael Anthony's pictures off the Van Halen website, the official website. I heard they removed the pictures from the website of Michael Anthony, removed all credit, I think, or something like that. And it was a pretty bad falling out with Michael Anthony. Michael Anthony was an underrated reason why Van Halen was a big success, was as successful as it was at bass. Often bass players don't get the recognition they deserve, because obviously when you talk about a band, you talk about the lead singer and the guitarist. But Michael Anthony was an instrumental part of Van Halen's success. Now they have a new member now for bass guitar, and it is Eddie's son, Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang Van Halen. He is now the bass player for Van Halen. And he's young too. I think he was like 18 years old or something like that when he became... Well, right now, actually, he is 23 years old. So he was young when he joined Van Halen. I mean, you're talking about he was in his teenage years when he joined Van Halen. So, with the new lineup established, they didn't release any studio albums with Sammy Hagar from 2003 to 2005. So for the longest time, 1998 was the recent album that Van Halen did. For the longest time. Then Van Halen fans clamored for a new album, new stuff. Then they got their wish. The 7th album by David Lee Roth and Van Halen, A Different Kind of Truth, came out in 2012. And it was a nice comeback for Van Halen. It didn't hit anywhere on the charts, per se, but this album holds a special significance to me, first of all, because it was really the first CD that I bought with my own money. And it definitely is a great listen. The thing with a Different Kind of Truth is that a lot of the songs were re-recordings of past songs from the past that weren't released in the past. So you have that. But I mean, there's 2 singles that came off the album: "Tattoo," which is the most successful song off the album, and then "She's the Woman," which is another big one. "Honey Baby Sweetie Doll," "Bullet Head," "Blood and Fire," "Chinatown," "The Trouble with Never." Great songs off the Van Halen album, off this album. It has actually sold 1 million copies worldwide as of 2013. Obviously, that's changed. It hit number 2 on the U.S. Billboard, on the Billboard 200, so it was a success there. It doesn't have any certifications in the U.S. In Canada, it actually is gold, but it doesn't have a certification in the U.S. Maybe that'll change in the future. I don't know, but it was a nice return to form anyway for Van Halen. A return back to the old days when David Lee Roth was the lead singer. And that's it for the albums in particular. Question is Van Halen going to do another studio album in the near future? It's been a few years now since that album came out. I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they do. But I mean, I don't believe they're touring at this moment. But we'll have to see what they do in terms of a new album. I'd love to see it, obviously, and I'd love to see an album of completely new material from them. Stuff they created the last couple years or so, but haven't gotten down to recording. I'd love to see new material from them, for sure. Even if we don't see new material for them, they've established a reputation as one of the greatest hard rock bands of all time, period. It's great to watch. It's great to see. I mean, they're a huge success. And they will continue to be a success. I mean, a lot of classic rock fans love Van Halen, but a lot of new rock fans, a lot of fans like myself who are pretty young, I think like Van Halen as well. I think find Van, they find Van Halen and they think it's a great success. They like the band. They like the music that Van Halen has. Anyway, it is my second favorite band and one of the greatest bands of all time, period. And that's it for this video. D-Rock 1992 out.